The program is in touch. I'm Ginny McGehee, and with us today we have Peg Calder. She is the president and one of the founders of the Foundation for Alcoholism Research. Peg, thank you very much for taking some time to be with us today.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
We got started because you have an event, a fundraiser coming up, and when this airs, it will have already happened. But it brought my attention to your organization, and as one of the founders, I guess we should ask you first, what is the Foundation for Alcoholism Research?
Well, I want to stress that it is alcoholism, the disease, that we care about. There is a Foundation for Alcohol Research, and its mission is quite different from ours. Ours is to raise funds and award grants to advance research in the prediction, the prevention, and the treatment of alcoholism. We're an all-volunteer, nonprofit charity, grassroots, started right here in Vermont.
Actually, Peg is in Bridport, Vermont, in the heart of Addison County, and this is not a Bridport organization or a Vermont organization. You work nationwide and even beyond sometimes, right?
Yes, we do. We're certainly based here, and most of our support is here, but we have supporters all over the country. On Facebook, we get some from outside the country. I don't know who they are, but we're glad to have them.
And what started this with you and other founders? When did you get going with Foundation for Alcoholism Research, FAR, and why?
We got our official IRS approval 3.5 years ago in July of 2008. There was a small group of us who were concerned about alcoholism and the relapse rate and the struggles that people are having. And we looked for an organization to join, such as a Heart Fund or a Cancer Society, but for alcoholism. And there wasn't any. Can you believe that?
It's kind of interesting, isn't it? I know that a lot of people know AA or some of those different organizations, but that wasn't quite what you were looking for.
No, AA is very specific in their mission, and they help people who need the help. They do not raise any funds for research. And when we looked into the research that was being done, NIH, which is the largest funder, and spends quite a bit, in absolute dollars, but still very small numbers of funds for addiction versus, say, AIDS. And yet alcoholism is the number 3 disease in this country behind heart disease and diabetes, with cancer coming in 4th.
For people that have diseases, you mean?
Yes.
And we don't always think alcoholism is a disease. We've learned a lot, maybe, that it is sometimes hereditary, but I guess a lot of that is what the foundation looks at.
There is strong behavioral evidence that is genetic, and certain groups of people are more prone to alcoholism than others, but we don't have any scientific proof. I talk to parents, and they have 2 children that are and 2 children that aren't. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could have a test when a child is small to see whether they're predisposed? We really don't know.
It's interesting because alcoholism, I don't think there's anyone who hasn't found it in their life as they live life with either a friend or family member who has issues with alcohol.
It affects 1 in 12 people in this country directly, and, of course, the family, the community, the workplace. It affects us all.
And alcoholism, it comes in a lot of different forms as far as individuals and how it affects them, whether it's depression or isolation, and there are just so many repercussions for everyone, aren't there?
There's the behavioral aspect, there's the environmental aspect, and there's the physiological aspect. And my feeling is that we know a lot more about the behavioral than we do about the physiological. And that's where I think we need to make some advances.
Let's talk about FAR, or Foundation for Alcoholism Research. We are speaking with Peg Calder, president and one of the founders for this organization. What has gone on so far in your 3+ years? The one nice thing about a lot of nonprofits these days, and your organization, is the whole world of technology makes it easy to have outreach and be able to work and communicate and fundraise around the country.
Yes, it has. And one thing that we're especially pleased about, even as a young grassroots organization, we are marching ahead with our mission, not just raising funds and going to street festivals and so forth. We have actually given 2 grants thus far. And if I may, I'd like to talk about those a little bit.
I wish you would, because this is why you raise money to get some of this research done.
Right. First of all, our grants are very small additions to larger grants from organizations such as NIH. The first grant we gave in 2009 was to Professor Cronus at Middlebury College, and she is a neuroscientist studying the tolerance aspects of alcoholism. And one thing that I certainly didn't know until I got involved with this was that, and we hear about the young people that pass out or throw up or vandalize, and certainly they have to be dealt with, and it's necessary. But then there's always that one person that can tolerate alcohol. And, oh, yeah, he can drive because it doesn't bother him. Well, tolerance is the aspect that she is investigating. The other people are more sensitive to alcohol. And if you're more sensitive, you're going to drink less. The people with the high tolerance keep drinking more and more and more. And the evidence kind of shows that they're the ones that actually progress into the disease along in their lives. And so that's a very important thing that she's looking at. And the other grant went to a physician, Dr. O'Brien, at the University of Pennsylvania Addiction Research Center. And we're very excited about what they're doing down there. There is a medicine called naltrexone that has shown to reduce the cravings in some people, and maybe 15 to 25% of the people. And today, the physicians just sort of, well, let's try this. And they don't know whether it's going to work or not. Well, now they've found a genetic variant, and they've done tests in small tests to sort of prove the theory, and now they have to do a larger test, which is what they're doing. This is going to be breakthrough because now the physicians will be able to test the patients and see whether they can benefit from naltrexone. And I think that's just huge.
This naltrexone is what they're hoping will change their desire for alcohol or their addiction needs, or I guess desire. Is that what it will do?
Yeah, it's a craving, just like you crave food or air, and it will reduce the craving in these people. Now, that is not going to cure them. It is not going to say that they don't need counseling as well, but it's a big step.
It's interesting that you talk about alcoholism. A lot of us have had drinks, whether we're young or middle-aged or older. Some of us may have been drinking a lot when we were young, or I grew up in the 70s, and they talk about binge drinking and a lot of times with the youth. But alcoholism knows no particular age group. I mean, it can be a part of anybody's life, right?
Absolutely, it can. And I do want to stress that we are not against drinking. We are for better help for those who need it. I talk to counselors, dedicated counselors, physicians, even probation officers, and they are doing the absolute best that they know how, and they need better methods to help these people.
Alcoholism turns out to be problems on the road, as you mentioned. Folks who are desperate for a drink, even when they're trying to quit or have gone through AA or gone through counseling. It's a tough disease to handle, and if it is a loved one, a friend or a family member, that's a tough battle too. And I'm guessing part of this idea of doing research on alcoholism must have stemmed from that with you and the founders.
Yes, each of us has had a personal relationship with somebody with this disease. In my own case, I was part of a loosely organized group of people across about 6 different states trying to help a woman who was in her early 40s, who was a very respected person in her field and had lost her husband, lost her children, lost her very good job, been in and out of jail, and we eventually got her into rehab. Of course, she relapsed as soon as she came out, which is a symptom of the fact that we don't know enough, is that people do relapse more often than not. And when I worked with her, and I went with her to family services and court and so forth, I just got the feeling that they really didn't know how to help her. And I'm sorry this might rub some people the wrong way because the people that are there are doing the very best they can, but I feel that our knowledge of alcoholism is 100 years behind our knowledge of mental health and tobacco, for example.
It's interesting because it is an addiction, and we talk a lot about drugs and other things that people get addicted to. But alcoholism, your idea and the organization Foundation for Alcoholism Research is to really learn a lot more how it works and who it affects and how it affects us so that it can be better taken care of and people can recover in a better way.
Right now, we have to put people in jail, just like we had to put people in jail that were mentally ill 100 years ago that now we know how to treat and they're functioning members of society. One of the things that I think would be a great help until we know more are the interlocks on cars. They're very expensive. This person that we were trying to help, we wanted to put that on her car, and we just couldn't afford it. It would be great if there was some more affordable way to put those on cars with people that have had a couple of DUIs.
There have been some discussions of that, of being able to start the car if your breathalyzer doesn't detect too much alcohol or alcohol. And so does this mean you're working with the auto industry as well?
No, we are not a lobbying or an advocate group. There are other people, other organizations that do that very well. And so we're leaving that to them.
Peg Calder is our guest. She's the president of the Foundation for Alcoholism Research and is a co-founder. And Peg, you've done a wonderful job at explaining where you're coming from on this. Maybe there's some other things and other goals and other bits you would like to add to our interview and let people know more about Foundation for Alcoholism Research.
Well, we do have a couple of events coming up. On May 1st, we have our 4th annual luncheon and card party at the Swift House Inn in Middlebury, Vermont. And then our big event is going to be part of the weekend-long Crown Point Bridge celebration on May 20th, the Sunday morning of that weekend. We're having a bike-a-thon. And if people are interested in either of those or in being a supporter or a volunteer, please contact us. Those two events the details are not finalized, so you won't find them on our website yet. But our website is www.alcoholismresearch.org. We're on Facebook. Our email is info@alcoholismresearch.org. And our phone number is 802-758-2243.
Could you give that number again?
802-758-2243.
So these events will be coming up. More details will be available on the website soon as we do this interview here at the start of February. Volunteerism, in what way do they volunteer, just out of curiosity?
Well, for example, the event that you mentioned at the beginning that will have been already over by the time this airs, we could have used some volunteers to help us contact the media, for example. We always need volunteers at the bike ride to man water stops. We do a lot of the street fair booths and need help setting up, taking down, manning the booth, just the general things that an organization needs.
And if this is something that hits home with you, you can get in touch with Peg Calder and Foundation for Alcoholism Research and give a little of your time and energy. That would be wonderful. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Peg?
I can't think of anything right now. I appreciate the opportunity to get our message out there. Right now, although we're fundraising, our main goal besides that is to get the message out, and this is very helpful, and I thank you.
Well, it's been a great pleasure talking to you, and of course, again, alcoholismresearch.org, or you can email info@alcoholismresearch.org. Our guest, Peg Calder, the president of the organization and one of the founders. It's been a great pleasure and nice learning about Foundation for Alcoholism Research. I appreciate your time very much.
You're quite welcome.
And I want to thank all our listeners for tuning in. I'm Ginny McGehee, and you're in touch.